Hey, welcome back to On the Level Leadership. And this week I want to cover what happens when leadership goes wrong. So, welcome back to this week's On the Level Leadership. And this week we're going to focus solely on being a leader and what that means. And specifically, what happens when leadership goes wrong. And I have 5 areas here where leaders can mess up. And the 5 is quite simple. It comes from a reverse engineering of what to do that is right from this book, The Leadership Challenge. So if we reverse engineer this book and we look at all of the leadership principles that you should be following to be a great leader, then what does it mean to be a bad leader? I really want to challenge you to see if you recognize any of these bad leadership traits, either in leaders you are currently reporting into, leaders you have reported to in the past, and more importantly, and I would say this is like the primordial piece here, is whether or not you yourself participate in some of these behaviors. Because if you do, I'm going to challenge you to review those behaviors because you want to improve your leadership. That's the whole point of you being here, not to become a worse leader, right? You want to become a better leader. So do you have any of these behaviors yourself? So the first set of behaviors is the do as I say, not as I do behaviors. This one's really about the inability to truly model the way. Now, as parents, we often unfortunately do this. We expect our kids to somehow behave, and yet we act in a way that's counter to what we're telling them to do. For example, offline, I can sometimes be known as someone who curses quite a bit. F-bomb is a very common word in my household. It is not fair, nor is it expected of me to model that and then expect my children to follow suit by not using those words when they're amongst their friends and colleagues. Because I do it, therefore they will do it, because children act based on how you act, not on what you say you should be doing in terms of actions. So people in organizations are no different. So if you don't speak the speak or walk the talk, guess what, guys? You're not going to build trust in your organization, and your leadership most definitely will be affected, right? Not modeling the way also means not ascribing to the shared values. So the whole organization values workplace balance, life balance, for example, but you don't model that way. As a leader, you expect people to respond to your emails, let's say at 3:00 in the morning or whatever. Not respecting those shared values is also about doing what I say, not what I do. I totally don't want you to work on weekends, but then you go ahead and send emails to people on Saturday night, and then they feel compelled to respond because they don't want to be career limited, because you as the leader have positional power over them. And so they feel obligated to reply to your email that comes on a Saturday in the middle of the afternoon or the middle of the day or in the middle of the night. Not being clear about one's values is, man, that's huge, because if you can't clearly articulate what your opinion is on something or what your belief systems represent to see how they align with the organizational belief systems and whether people can see whether you share common ideals, that can affect the trust that your organization and that your team will have in you. So again, if you're not modeling the way, you're not acting like a great leader. And the last thing I'm going to say on not do as I say, not as I do, is sometimes when it gets really toxic, leaders can cross the lines on ethics and possibly even push the legality of what they're asking their staff to do. So it's like, don't break the law or anything, but I wouldn't be upset if you did this. And it kind of can really push employees to kind of question whether or not their ethics or their core values really align with the organization. And it might just be that one leader whose values are completely misaligned with the organizational ones, but because they report to that positional leader and that positional leader has a lot of influence on their career, they feel obligated to respond in a way that, if they don't respond to this ethical question, it could mean the end of their career. Again, it can get really toxic if you do as I say, not as I do. Second set of behaviors that indicate that leadership is going wrong is when there is no clear vision. no clear ability to get everybody on the same page. And the worst part is if they're really toxic, they don't care about this. So this is when you get things like absentee leaders. I have a video I'm going to put on top here about what an absentee leader is, but it's basically a leader who doesn't give a rat's ass, right? They don't care. They don't want to hear about the problems of the employees. They don't want to manage or lead anything. They just want to make the big bucks, drive the fancy cars, have the big house, but not have to really do the work of being a leader in the organization. So that is one part of a potential leader that has no clear vision and doesn't care to have any clear vision about the organization. Leaders who have no ability to share a clear vision have no passion. I mean, could you imagine if a guy like Walt Disney had no passion for anything he did? Right? Like, this was a man who typically would act out all of his cartoon shorts so that his animators would understand exactly how he wants the cartoon to behave and act like on screen. If he didn't do that, would we have the Snow White of today? Would we have Cinderella? Would we have Walt Disney World? Would we have anything really that is Disney oriented if we didn't have that passion? And all the Imagineers that followed Walt have passion for what they do. And because of that, people can buy into that vision and they really want to move forward on what it is you're trying to achieve. Well, can you imagine if you didn't have that, right? I mean, no passion means no one who wants to follow somebody who doesn't have passion. So a leader who's completely burnt out or who just simply doesn't care anymore about what they're doing really lacks passion. And because of that, will not be able to bring anybody along. Having no clear vision also means that that person is not forward thinking, but rather past focused. So they're thinking about the good old days, the days when things used to go well. They really don't have a forward thinking possibility. Everything that we're doing to change in a positive way to them seems negative. They just want to stay in the past, the way things were. They don't want to change anything, and they can't think forward thinking. And so it really reduces the ability of the organization to be innovative and creative. And so that poor leadership, that poor leader positionally can really cause an organization to stagnate and not come up with really great ideas, and could affect the bottom line ultimately of that company. Because if you don't allow for creativity and allow for innovation and good ideas, then how can you possibly grow as an organization? The third thing you have to worry about when leadership goes wrong is the leader who does not welcome any kind of challenge. Challenging the process is all about welcoming innovation. It's about allowing people's ideas to flourish. It's about a certain level of risk tolerance. So if leadership is going wrong in an organization, chances are that leader is insecure, maybe a bit controlling, doesn't want to change anything, is super risk averse, because the risk is associated with their own personal risks. So an insecure leader, for example, will avoid risks at all costs because they don't want to lose their position or their status within the organization. And can be very controlling, and a very toxic leader could even be narcissistic in nature. So I think, someone who doesn't welcome challenge, who doesn't welcome innovation, that doesn't welcome good ideas, even if it's not their own good ideas, is a poor leader. And that leader can really create a system of toxicity that is unacceptable in any organization. The leader that doesn't welcome challenge also is the same leader that is past thinking, like I was talking about earlier. They're the one that it's always been this way. We shouldn't have to do it any other way. We've never done it any other way. This is how we run this business. If you don't like it, get off the boat kind of thing. That is the kind of leader that just doesn't want innovation and change. Very risk averse, uninterested in any improvements, because those improvements impose risk, which means risk to them personally. This is about them not thinking about the organization as a whole and what might benefit the organization as a whole, but rather thinking more about how is this going to affect and impact me? How is this going to make me look? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to look less than? Am I going to look like I'm not the one with the great ideas? If my staff look better than me, then my senior VP might decide they don't need me anymore. So these are very insecure type behaviors. And when that happens, then leadership is going wrong. The fourth item is the inability to want to enable others. So this is all about other people's success being a threat to them. So if you have a leader who refuses to collaborate, who doesn't want to hear your good ideas, who absolutely says things like, this is my way or take the highway kind of language, if the success of other people is a threat to their survival or livelihood in the organization, then that is leadership going wrong. You want leaders in your organization that are going to be willing to collaborate, that are going to be willing to have conversations with other people, because the more people you have at the table, the more good ideas you have at the table, the better the product will be. These leaders often refuse to delegate because they need to control everything. And if they do delegate whatever it is that they delegate, they will then proceed to micromanage everything that's being done. So everything is about control. And so those that are unwilling to enable others to learn, to grow, to get promoted, to become better leaders because they view all of that as a threat, that's poor leadership. And the final thing is that they have little to no emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, and they ask themselves the question, we have hearts? People care about this stuff? That's fluffy crap. I don't want to hear about the fluffy crap. So again, when leadership goes wrong, you have a focus on mistakes and errors rather than a focus on contributions and success. These leaders are unable to create a sense of community. They create a sense of division. Us versus them, the losers versus the winners, the people who make mistakes versus the people who don't make mistakes. There is no real community sense when these leaders are in charge. When you have positional leaders that are unable to connect to people heart to heart and really have no ability to connect to people on a human level, but really only see them as a means to an end to their own career growth or progression, then you cannot build camaraderie, you cannot build team spirit, you cannot improve morale. It's really, really hard to do that. And these leaders are often the boss, right? They're the ones that articulate very clearly, I'm the boss, I'm the VP, what I say goes, no one's to question me, no one's to challenge me, I will not accept anything else. Leadership comes from the top. The bottom has nothing to say about leadership. Leadership is not about the worker bees. Worker bees don't have leadership. We do. They see leadership as positional rather than relational. Remember, I've said it in a few videos in the past, and if I have a card on this, I'll put it up here in terms of the leadership challenge. I believe I have a playlist on the leadership challenge that you can watch if you're interested in that. But really, leadership is all about relationship. It's all about trust. It's about caring about other people. It's about being in service of others, not the opposite, right? Working with people is not about improving your career path. I mean, ultimately, if you work for other people and you help your team grow, your career path will blossom because people will see the value of your leadership because you've enabled others. But if you see that as an insecurity, if you see that as a threat to your survival, then I'm going to question whether or not you are a good leader. So those are your 5 signs that leadership is going wrong in your organization. It really is about reverse engineering the leadership challenge. If you want to know how to do it right, this is the book for you. I have the link down below for this book if you're interested, and I have other references for other leadership books down there as well that I found useful in my growth as a leader. But this book here in particular is to me, it's mandatory reading. I've said that in a number of my videos, but really it's about doing it right from the 5 principles of modeling the way, and inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others, and encouraging the heart. Those are the 5 principles. That's in this book. And so read that if you think it's going to help you. And I want to say, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And subscribe, because I am here every single week to talk about leadership and or coaching. This happened to be the week for Leadership Lowdown, so here you go. I hope to see you again next week. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.